Welcome to Garden Wise Adventures. My name is Malie, and today we're doing something special. As you all know, it's the holiday season, and it's about time for poinsettias. So I decided I would love to learn more about them because, as I've said before, I'm not really a houseplant person, but I love learning new things. So I decided, let's go to the main expert here in the state of Utah. This is Brian Lloyd in Olson Greenhouse.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah. So, Brian, tell us a little bit about yourself and
Sure.
why I think I should come to you about poinsettias.
Sure. Well, not because I'm an expert, just because I've been doing it for a long time.
That makes you an expert.
So I'm part of the Olsen family. My last name's different because I married into the family about 27 years ago. So, and I've been working in the company, the family company, ever since. Olson's Greenhouse was started by my wife's great-grandfather back in the 1940s. And we've been growing flowers. We started just in his backyard, and we ship those flowers all over the western United States, basically. We've been growing flowers for a long time. And we started back we kind of started out shipping and selling to selling to the local community. We grew a lot of tomato starts for farmers.
Okay, so tomatoes, what else do you grow?
That's how we started now, and then we switched over to ornamental flowers like pansies. Back in the 1940s. They just found a lot more need for ornamental plants back then. And since the 1970s, we've been shipping those to stores like Kmart, anywhere that sells flowers, a lot of independent garden centers.
Oh, wow.
And that sort of thing. And then in the 90s, we kind of switched our focus and we started mainly shipping to the larger box stores like Walmart and Home Depot.
Okay, I have to tell you that we were messaging back and forth a while ago this summer about some of the petunias that you had out. I still have one of the petunias I found at Home Depot that I specifically went looking for some of your really cool ones.
Nice. Did you bring it inside then?
No, it's still blooming.
It's working outside.
Absolutely gorgeous. And I quit watering it like a month ago.
Oh, wow.
So anyway, we're not here to talk about petunias, but you need to go, when you go to Home Depot, look for the really cool, interesting looking petunias, and maybe we can do another video about it next year about some of the stuff you're sending out. I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that even though we sell to those big box stores, they still have a pretty good selection of cool and unique varieties that you can't find a lot of places. And at Olson's Greenhouse, because we're large enough, we're able to work really closely with breeders. And this is on things like annuals in the spring, but also on poinsettias that we're here to talk about today.
Yeah.
We work very closely with the breeders that come up with different colors and habits and forms of all these genetics. And then we bring them here and try them in our trial gardens. We first grow them in the greenhouse, but then we grow them outdoors to make sure that they do well in our climate, so that consumers, when you go to Home Depot or Walmart and you're buying an annual or a perennial, you know that it's come from our climate, so it's grown and acclimated for what we're setting it up for. But it's also, it's bred to be, to have longevity. So especially with perennials, you want to make sure that they're going to last for years and years in our hot, arid, dry climate in the summer,
soil,
and arid in the winter too, and our low temps and all that kind of stuff. So we trial all of our plants, and then we do the same with poinsettias. We go to different greenhouses where the breeders are working on different colors, and we see how those colors look. We see how they stand up indoors as you put them inside your house and decorate with them. And we're trying to find new and unique all the time and bring that to the market.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more about the poinsettias, because every once in a while I'll get one and bring it into my house, but that's all I really know about it. Other than I lived in Southern California for a while, and people would sometimes plant them outside. But where do they come from? What are they?
They're a native shrub, actually. They're not technically a plant. They're a woody shrub that will grow 10, 12, 15 feet tall in its native areas. They're native to Mexico, northern Mexico, and you can see them natively growing in Southern California as well.
Yeah, I saw that.
So in those types of climates, they'll get big because they live year-round, because the temperatures aren't too cold. They like that. They don't like temperatures below 50. They can stand it down to low mid-30s, but only for a short period of time, like an hour or two.
So not like just night times. It has to be only like an hour or two once every great while.
Yeah, so in the deserts of Mexico or the coast of Southern California, they do really well because it doesn't often get below 40, and they can stand that okay. But the reason why they're a Christmas flower is, first of all, because they started out red. okay, which is a Christmas color.
Yes.
But also because they bloom at the same time of year as Christmas, naturally.
Oh, really?
And
okay.
the reason why they do that is it takes what we call short days for them to bloom, or long nights. And once that happens, it triggers the plant to start the bloom cycle. Now it takes a long period. It takes about 10 weeks for most varieties of poinsettias of those long nights before it changes color fully and turns into the red color that we see here.
Okay, so can I get, I'm going to get everybody a little bit closer and let's look at these and then you can tell me which is the flower.
Sounds good.
Look around here. That is a lot of poinsettias.
And we've shipped a lot already. We're in the final week of shipping.
We walked for how long? About 3 or 4 minutes through bays and bays of, you know, they were empty with a few flowers,
right.
But you could tell that they had been full.
We grow about 12 acres of poinsettias here at this location in Utah. We have locations in Idaho and Colorado too, where we grow another 20 or so acres of poinsettias, so a lot of plants.
Okay, so let's look at these. They're absolutely, I love this color. So here we are.
One thing people don't realize is the red color that you see is not actually the bloom. We call them the blooms a lot of times, but technically the red color is a bract, and a bract is just a modified leaf. So the change of color, it looks like a leaf because it is a leaf. It's a modified leaf that's genetically programmed to change colors. But the actual bloom is here in the middle. We call this the cyathea. This is the bloom. And you don't see much color on it. It's kind of a pale yellow, and it's at the center, and that's where all the reproductive parts of the bloom really are. So the bract is designed to draw pollinators in to the bloom, which is at the center.
So just this pretty yellow part right in the middle is the bloom.
Yep.
That really makes the whole plant. I love that. Okay.
So to get to that red color, like I said, it takes about 10 weeks of darkness, and a lot of
10 weeks of total darkness
no,
all day long?
Over 12 hours every night.
Okay.
And it's an accumulation type of thing. So what happens is if for some reason we were to get light pollution in the middle of the night into this greenhouse, it would kind of reset that nighttime. So let's say at 2 p.m. a car drove by and lit up the greenhouse. You know, that would make the plant realize that it's not nighttime anymore, it's now daytime, and it would reset that clock, and that whole night would be ruined for the accumulation.
So what do
towards
you
the plant.
do?
So we just make sure the greenhouse is away from lights. And this it's not a big concern for us in the greenhouse. We're not near any roads, we don't get any light pollution in here. But if you're a homeowner and you're trying to change the colors, and you're just, you know that the outside, you know, the nighttime is long enough, it doesn't really matter inside because we use lights to see in the dark, right? And so when we put lights in there, we're kind of interrupting that nighttime length.
Okay, so once again, 12 hours a day for how long to change the color?
12 hours for about 10 weeks. So you got to start late September.
Okay.
And then, so that outdoors, a poinsettia will experience this naturally, right? As long as there's no lights or security lights or porch lights shining on the plant or cars shining on the plant, the plant will experience this naturally. But here in the northern climates, like in Utah, we can't put poinsettias outdoors. It's too cold for them.
Right.
And so we put them indoors. We use them as an indoor plant. If you want to bring a plant over from last year, it is technically a perennial or a shrub.
Right.
It will survive if you keep it in indoor temperatures, but it'll stay green unless you give it that 10 weeks of long nights. And
okay, so like seal it in a box in a closed closet.
Either in a box or just in a closet or a dark basement that you don't turn lights on. And if you go down there and check on it and open the door, you've lost that day's worth of accumulation towards the 10 weeks. And so we like to say put it in a dark closet and then don't touch them. And you got to do that every day for 10 weeks. So it's really tough.
Let's just go to Home Depot and buy some of your poinsettias.
There you go.
That's my idea.
It's a great challenge if you're up for it, and a lot of people like to try it. But as far as bringing your own plants back into color, it's usually worth it for most people just to go buy a new plant every Christmas season. Yeah, because look at this.
I mean, you cannot beat that color.
And plants need light to photosynthesize and to live. So there's two things. They need light, and they need to keep growing, otherwise they'll die from lack of sunlight or light if you don't if you don't pull them out of the closet every day. But they need that long night period to trigger the bloom. So the plant might stay alive without the long nights, or it will stay alive if you treat everything else perfectly, the temperature and all that kind of stuff.
So what's perfectly, if you, well, let's say you don't want to winter it over, but you just want to keep it alive throughout all the holiday seasons. What's the perfect care for a poinsettia?
So ideal for poinsettias are three things. Number one, the light, and they need bright but indirect light. They don't like to be in direct sunlight, so you don't want to stick them in a south window with no blinds on it and have that sun shine on them every day. That's a little too intense for them, but they still need bright light, so maybe a few feet away from the window. You don't want to stick them in a dark room with no windows. Even with natural lights, that's not enough sunlight to really help them thrive. So they need bright sunlight, but indirect. So does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
We need those two different things. And then water, they need regular water. You don't want to overwater them, which means always have the soil moist. You want it to dry out in between waterings. And when I say dry out, if they're in a pot, you want the top 2 inches to kind of be dry to the touch. So stick your finger in about an inch or two down, and if you still feel some moisture, it's not quite time to water them yet. It's easy to figure out with poinsettias because you can let them wilt 1 or 2 times. And once they wilt, you see that you went too far.
And then you can feel and say,
you'll
that
see
was way too
the
dry.
plant wilt. But it can go from wilt to dry and dead in just a matter of a few hours. So you kind of got to be watching
So you really watch them.
They might wilt for a day, and then by the next morning, if you didn't water them, they'd be dead. So you only want that to happen as you're teaching yourself how often to water them.
Like once. It
depends on how much light they get and how warm the temperatures are. For me in my house, I usually water my poinsettias twice a week. You can get away with once a week sometimes.
Depending probably on the humidity and
if they're
stuff,
not too hot or too warm and not in too much light. The lower the light, the less water they need. But in ideal bright indirect sunlight and warm temperatures around 70 degrees, 69 degrees, they need water about twice a week. And the biggest thing with poinsettias, a lot of times we have them either in a pot cover, a foil pot cover.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
Or a container, some type of ceramic container without drain holes.
Yeah.
We don't want them to sit in water like that. So when I water them, I put them in the sink, water them well, let them drain for a half an hour to an hour. All that excess water drains out, and then I put them back into the pot cover and back into the room where they're decorating. So I always bring them to the sink, take them out of the pot cover and water them there and let them drain. That's the ideal way. You don't have to do it that way. As long as you're good at managing the water and you don't water too much and you water frequently, you can water them where they're at in their pot cover.
Just make sure it's
not puddling in the bottom. Yeah, and if it does, pull the plant out, drain the water, put it back, and you're good to go.
Perfect. Now, what about colors? Because this is the typical red, and it's just, to see it in mass like this is absolutely gorgeous. But what other colors do
poinsettias started out red naturally, but they've quickly were bred to come up with a lot of different colors. And white is probably the second most popular, and we've been working for a long time on breeding white. Should we go over and take a look at some white ones?
Yeah, let's go look. We're here in another part of your greenhouse with a gorgeous white poinsettia, but you said that there was maybe one other thing for care that we need to think about.
Oh yeah. So, and the last thing for poinsettias for care, the third thing they need is they've got to be away from drafty areas. And this is hot or cold drafts, mostly cold drafts, but we don't want them by a heater vent either. You don't want wind blowing on them very often. They don't like to have the air moving around them too much. And so you want to keep them away from drafts. Cold drafts from windows that are kind of let a lot of air in, or heater vents or anything like that.
Perfect. Okay, now let's look at this. Isn't that gorgeous?
So this is a newer variety of white, and the breeders are constantly trying to get the yellow out. This one still has a little bit of yellow in it, but we're pretty proud of how white the bloom actually is becoming. I don't know if you can tell on video, but this is a pretty big advancement. These varieties of white are getting more and more white, less and less yellow over time, and that contrast between the bright white and the red just looks great inside the home.
Yeah, look at this down here.
So
look how pretty that is.
They're working on new colors of white all the time, but the poinsettias come in a lot of other colors, from pink to spotted and all sorts of things in between.
Do you have some other ones that we can look at?
Yeah, let's look at them.
Okay. As we were walking past these, I just had to stop and look at them.
So these are a new variety called Poinsettia, and they're a different flower form. They're a really small plant and a very small bloom, but this is the brightest white you can get in poinsettias. The problem is we can't get the bract big enough in this variety, so they're trying to get the white features out of this with the growth habit of the bigger plants for a bigger poinsettia. But if you want bright white, Poinsettia and you like the smaller bloom, Poinsettia is the way to go. This also has a cypress, a lemon cypress tree in the middle of it
gorgeous.
that we're finding has a lot of popularity this time of year.
Okay, look at this, everyone.
So this is a variety that's, the concept has been around for probably 20 years or longer, where you try and combine the red into the white into the red and make it a little bit splotchy. This is the newest genetics. You can see here some of the leaves, some of the bracts are starting to revert back to pure white. And we're trying to get away from that more and more, but it still looks okay. I like it a lot.
Yeah, it gives, you know, just an added neat look to it.
It's really striking the contrast between the red and white. So this is, there are a few different breeders that actually make this type of color, and usually they're called like a red white glitter or something like that.
Yeah.
The variety names, I don't know the exact variety name of this one, but that red white blotchy contrast is really popular sometimes.
Yeah, and some of them down there it looks like there's more of the white than the red, and then some of them there's just more splotches in it. They're all like, this one only has like one leaf that has the white.
And this is all genetic related. There's nothing we can do in the growing process to get more red or less white or anything like that. It's just up to the genes of the plant, and it's getting better and better all the time as far as how stable the actual splotchy color is. But this is where we're at today.
Perfect. Let's go see more. Okay, I'm seeing a couple of different things over here. Look at that pink color.
So the pink color has been popular for a long time, and you know, it's not much of a Christmassy color in my opinion, but for some people, this just goes with the decor of their house much better than a solid red. But one of my favorite colors is actually more of what we call a marble, and it's the white with the pink in the center.
Now, I haven't seen this one before.
This has been around in different forms. This particular variety, I think, is a trial version that we're trialing, but I like that for a room that has more soft pastel colors in the furniture and whatnot. I think that would go well with it.
So now, when does that color fade?
The color fades on all poinsettias, depending on how you take care of it. After a couple months, in February usually, about that time of year, as long as the plant is healthy, doesn't dry out, the color will start to go away in February or March.
So you can't buy this and say, okay, this is the perfect color, I'm going to treat this well and keep it like that until the plant dies.
No, those blooms, the bracts will fall off, the bloom will blow out, and then the bract leaves will fall off, and then new green leaves will grow again. And then it takes another probably 6 months or so before you can start the cycle, before you have a nice healthy green plant, before you can force it to change color again.
Okay, that makes sense. And then what are these guys down here?
This is a variety called Winter Rose, and it's just that crinkled leaf. So that crinkly leaf is called Winter Rose, and it's normal for this variety, even though it looks like maybe a pest got to it. But the way it's been bred for about 25 years now, and they're getting the habit of it much better, and more of the bulk of the plant. You started out, the first year they came out with it, it was a really spindly plant with not a lot of leaves underneath to support it. Now it's growing a lot more full, and these are the leftovers that we did not ship, so they don't look very good. But when you buy one of these in the stores, the ones we ship to the stores do look really good at this point.
Oh, perfect. So what other colors do they have? So you have that pink, and then you have the kind of variegated pink, red.
There are several other colors that are combinations, but we stick to just a few different varieties. We still grow over 90% red, and maybe about 5% white, 2 or 3% pink, and then 2 or 3% what we call novelty colors, which are different splotches like the red white glitter or the marble color that you see here.
Yeah, well, I love this. Thank you for letting us come see. So next time you go to Home Depot or Walmart and see all these gorgeous poinsettias, now you know where they come from. They come from Olson Greenhouse, and Brian Lloyd is an amazing person.
Thanks. Really, thanks for coming out and joining us and learning more about the process. If you want more information, or if you have questions about your personal poinsettia, whether you bought it from one of the stores we sell to or not, you're welcome to go to ogg.com and send us an email, and we'd be happy to answer any questions to help you take care of your poinsettia the best way you can.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. So I'm glad you joined us all on this adventure. If you like my videos, please like and subscribe, and go have a wonderful garden adventure.